Redditors who have worked with celebrities, what don't we know about them? Taught Chris Hemsworth's oldest child on a pony a couple of times. He came with us on a walk one time and tried to crack a few jokes that neither his wife or I got. It was very awkward for about 5 minutes as he explained the joke. If you look like Chris Hemsworth, you don't need to be able to tell a joke. My stepfather helped build Andre the Giant's house. Said he was the sweetest guy in the world, and when the job was done he brought the whole crew out for steaks. He ate 2 steaks on his own and drank like 6 beers without even getting drunk. I don't know how much this applies because I think most people know Andre was a sweetheart who was good at eating and drinking, but there you go. Tom Hanks comes to the restaurant I bartend at fairly regularly with his writing company. Everyone who waits on him says he's insanely nice, and if he pays, he always tips at least a bill. Not me and not met, but a close friend was working on an animal welfare documentary in the UK years ago and wrote to David Attenborough's management asking if he would be involved. She received a many-page long handwritten letter from David where he politely declined because he had too many other projects at the time, and then told her all about the family of hedgehogs living in his garden. I was so paranoid that you'd say something bad. This is so adorable. Not me, but my mom has students that have gone on to work in Hollywood. She teaches film, and they tell her all sorts of crap. Apparently the reason Tom Cruise keeps getting jobs despite his utter insanity and Scientology connections is that he's one of the most professional actors out there. He doesn't bulls. He doesn't waste time. If you tell him to do something, he'll do it. He's apparently a pleasure to work with. Dr. Phil, on the other hand, forbids anyone from making eye contact with him. I also heard Tom Cruise is great with the support staff during filming, taking time to talk to everyone and even remembering people from previous films he's worked with. Even though he might be crazy, when it comes to the job of making movies, he is a total professional. Andre 3000. This was over 15 years ago. When I was in high school, I worked a local family-owned plant nursery. Andre, his wife, and their then baby boy used to come in and shop almost every weekend. He was a super nice guy. One time, he bought an entire pallet of sod. He had a brand new Lincoln Blackwood pickup truck, and the pallet wouldn't fit in the bed with the forklift, so I had to load it by hand. He went in, bought a pair of gloves, came back out and helped me load it. Also told me that he was going to go home and lay it out by himself. Kind of shocking considering how much that guy is probably worth. Something that didn't strike me at the time, that I now realize as an adult, was how good of a father he was. His son was just a baby, but man did he love that baby. Every time he would walk up to put a piece of sod in the bed of his truck, he would peek in the window and make a face at his son sitting in the back seat. The kid would cackle like a banshee. After we finished, he gave me a $100 tip, which, to a 15-year-old in the early 2000s, was a ton of money. Truly a stand-up guy and a very talented artist. 3 Stacks is my hero. If I ever saw him in person I would crumble into freaking dust. I want to see him someday but it seems like he moved out of Atlanta. I worked security for Mac Miller and Ariana Grande was there, wanted to get food, and needed security. I volunteered and we went to a local restaurant. There was just about no one there so we just sat and ate and chatted. She's not actually a mean or bratty person one-on-one. She was polite and the small talk was fine. Pretty cool to talk to. Seemed like she liked that the place was empty. For someone who seems to really like attention, I got the impression that she really doesn't. I've heard nothing but bad things about her so this was nice to hear. I've heard her ego is bigger than Mariah Carey's and thinks she's God's gift to the earth. Everyone is beneath her. I feel awful for her after the Manchester attack though and I hope she's handling it okay. I was local crew for a Weird Al concert several years ago. Al walked up to me and asked if I was from the area. I said yes and tried not to fall to my knees and start worshipping him Wayne's World style. He asked what's some good places to take his kids. I recommend the local zoo because they just opened a new sloth exhibit. We talked about sloths for a while and he shook my hand and thanked me for the advice. He was incredibly normal and nice. My own story. I played hockey with Michael Bublé. I expected a stuck-up rich dude who thought he was better than everyone. He wasn't. He was so genuinely kind. and it's not like he was putting on a show. It was just a bunch of people who mostly knew each other getting together to play hockey, so he had no reason to be anyone but himself. I ended up on his team for the game. We chatted on the bench after each shift. Super cool dude. Down to earth. We talked about his Christmas special and that year Bieber was on, and I asked about Bieber low riding his pants and Michael just said young kid. What can ya do, but generally had good things to say about Bieber. Most memorable moment was when my buddy and him talked. My buddy is really good at hockey. Michael says here's the deal. I'll give you all the women you want and you give me your hockey skills. Michael sucks at hockey but is super cool. I worked at a pretty popular restaurant in Napa Valley through high school and college. Since celebrities are a normal occurrence, staff were never allowed to acknowledge them as celebrities, ask for autographs, etc. Well, Adam Sandler came in, and our 15-year-old host boy was just beaming with excitement. He couldn't make it obvious or ask for an autograph or anything, or else he'd be fired. Adam, being the awesome guy he is, goes up to the boy as he was leaving our restaurant for the night. He looked at him, pointed in his face, and while handing him a $100 bill, yelled, "You remember me for the rest of your life, kid," with that huge Adam Sandler smile. It was epic. An old co-worker of mine had a sales appointment with Cyndi Lauper to demo a product for Cindy's mom. My co-worker is a huge fan. She said that Cyndi was super nice, down to earth and willing to get involved. Only thing was that she used a different name for the appointment, and I guess she looks a little different in person. Maybe different hair? I dunno. So my co-worker didn't realize she was with Cyndi Lauper until on her way home after the 3-hour visit. I hear a lot of celebrities make appointments and check into hotels with different names to avoid potentially getting noticed. They just want to get things done like normal people after all. I met Garth Brooks at a Red Robin's in El Paso, Oklahoma. He was having lunch with his family and I really did not want to bother him. However, being a huge fan since the 90s, I couldn't help but keep looking over at him. Towards the end of my meal with my family, I was home from college. The waitress said Mr. Brooks had picked up our bill, so, naturally, we went over to thank him. For the world's highest selling artist, he is the nicest man on the planet. He signed my hat for me and even invited us back to his place for a tour of his studio when he learned that I was a fan. It was a great experience and I will cherish that memory my entire life. John Legend was extremely humble and nice. A lot of actors and musicians are really shy people when they are not performing. You a wavy dude. I met Anthony Daniels, the man who played C-3PO, when I was in high school. I went to a con with a friend and we, by pure chance, managed to talk to him and get photos with him for free. I was nervous meeting him because I'd heard he was a bit of a jerk, but he was nice to us and took a moment to talk to us before he left. He has a dry sense of humor and that can be an acquired taste for many people, so that might be the reason for his reputation. I'm just glad I was lucky enough to have a good experience with him. I met him when I was a docent and we had a Star Wars exhibit. He was super nice. He helped me with my costume so it would be more accurate and took pictures with me. Super late to the party, but I love telling this story. I was in Wichita Falls, Texas for tech school. I'm in the military. I was drinking at the Buffalo Wild Wings in the mall. I was there for a few hours and look behind me and there he was at a table with 2 other people I didn't know. The one and only Emilio Estevez. Coach Bombay was behind me and I was so nervous. I ended up buying him a beer and just raised my glass when it was dropped off. It was a Guinness Stout. I thought he was gonna ignore me. He ended up coming to talk to me at the bar for 2 hours. Generally cared what I had to say and never got annoyed with me constantly talking to him. Great guy. He left after he bought me a shot of tequila and told me to be safe and thanked me for serving. 10/10 would buy him another beer again. Giancarlo Esposito, Gus Fring from Breaking Bad Better Call Saul, used to live in a town a little ways away from my hometown growing up. The people who owned his house before he did used to host a Bernese Mountain Dog meetup parade thing, which my family would go to because we had a burner at the time. This was circa 2003 to 2005, when Giancarlo bought the house. He kept it up and even had the event catered and would hang out with all these random people and their dogs. We knew he was an actor who was on a bunch of TV shows, but he wasn't very well known at the time. Again, about 5 years before Breaking Bad, we just knew him as a really nice dude who was way more okay with metric tons of dog crap on his lawn than most human beings. Years later, my mom and I binge watched Breaking Bad and she flipped out when she realized that Gus frickin' Fring had given her children cupcakes and complimented her dog. I don't think I could cope with the Bernese Mountain Dog Parade. Those dogs are so dang good looking. I gave Seth Green the Wi-Fi password at the Kennedy Space Center a few hours before the last shuttle launch. He seemed pretty cool. I escorted Gary Sinise around for a day. He was the nicest guy. He stopped and talked to every soldier and would actively listen to them and get to know their stories. We chatted for a while in the vehicles as we were transported from training site to training site. I first saw him getting off his private plane and he was carrying his own bags, which shocked me. You could run into him and never know he was a celebrity. There isn't another celebrity I respect more than Gary. Gary Sinise is awesome with vets. Truly upstanding guy. I sat next to Josh Groban on a night flight from New York to London. I never indicated I knew who he was. We talked about dogs and then went to sleep. A very nice and very polite guy. I met Floyd Mayweather Jr. working at a bowling alley in Las Vegas. He couldn't have been a nicer guy. At the time I didn't think much of him. But after a couple interactions throughout the night, he had a private party there. I realized the Floyd on TV YouTube is a act. He tipped all the bartenders extremely well. He wears size 8.5 shoe. All of them are acts. It's made Floyd McGregor, etc. very rich. Met with Bill Murray once. He said something hilarious, gave me incorrect directions, and then walked off looking like everybody's favorite crazy uncle. I met him once with my wife while she was pregnant with our first. He took a picture, asked her about the baby and gave us advice for prepping a good birth room at the hospital. He seemed very comfortable in his role as everybody's favorite crazy uncle. I work with rock musicians. Most of them are not as groupie crazy and drunk as people assume they are. Seriously, try getting frisky on a bus with 15 other people stacked and like sardines while the whole place smells like sweaty gym socks and weeks old pee from the unbowed toilet. That being said, Richard Patrick from Filter uses a teleprompter so he can remember the songs. It kind of became a running joke for a while. My daughter went to an alternative high school for kids who had a hard time with mainstream high school. She has anorexia and major depressive disorder. Tyler Joseph, 21 pilots, come in when he is in town because his mother is my daughter's math teacher. He supports his mom and what she does for these kids. My daughter got to have a piece of his birthday cake. That's dope. I always hear stuff about how 21 pilots are so chill and down to earth. Worked with Misha Collins when I was working for a campaign in Iowa. It was a get out the vote event, and he was just as nice as people say he is. Very clearly aware of who his fan base is and who was going to be there, and very conscious of making sure that they had a good time. Very genuine and kind with everyone. I'm watching him on Netflix right now. The whole cast of Supernatural seems so awesome. I met Serj Tankian, lead singer of System of a Down, before a concert while he was touring for his solo projects. He is the kindest guy I've ever met. I had a great chat with him. He let me take pictures and signed stuff. I told him that my GF likes him a lot but couldn't be here today, so he wrote her a small letter. That was pretty awesome. Paul McCartney is an incredibly nice guy, great tipper, jokes around as if he wasn't in the most famous band of all time. Total class act, every time I've seen him. Not me, but my friend worked a convention with Garrett Wang, Harry Kim from Star Trek Voyager. I'd asked my friend to get a signed photo for me, and whenever I get a signed photo of a celeb, I always ask them to picture the world's most annoying fan, and write what they'd really like to write to them, as abusive as possible. Most won't do it, but Garrett was all over it. I have a signed picture that reads to Paulius, "Frick you. Love Garrett." I would absolutely lose my crap. He is my favorite guy on Voyager, just barely behind Bob Picardo. What can I say? I love a man who can do opera. Served John Barrowman multiple times whilst working in a department store in Cardiff while he was filming Torchwood. Classic, not quite the right request to the story, I know, but he was the most polite and talkative customer. A very welcome change to the regulars who have too much money and not enough manners. I went to a con and met Linda Hamilton in an elevator. I had ordered a pizza and went down to the lobby to pick it up. She rode up with me and the pizza. I didn't recognize her and she looked at 6'4" me and the pizza and said, "I'm gonna beat you up and steal your pizza." We both laughed and she got off and wished me a good con. I then recognized her and saw her the next day and offered her the leftovers. She remembered and we both had a good laugh. I'm gonna beat you up and steal your pizza. Part of me believes she could have. I know some guys who worked on Kirstie Alley's house in Maine a couple years back. I've been told that she screamed at the workers for making too much noise while they put up drywall. Shut up, shut up. I'm trying to do yoga. LOL trying. Prince was very funny. Meeting him was one of the strangest experiences of my life. He was the sort of person whose very presence completely changed the atmosphere of any room he was in. It's simply indescribable. When you meet Prince, you don't just walk up to him and say, "Hi, Prince. I'm not a famous person." You are summoned. He addresses you by your full name, and you are allowed to speak to him. Not because you couldn't say something to him or because it's forbidden. You just don't feel right about speaking to him before you're spoken to. The man had a level of charisma that I've only seen in one other person I've met. That person being Bill Clinton. When I met him he was wearing clothes made of a fabric I'd never seen before and I felt compelled to, but I didn't dare touch because, you know, it's Prince. And touching Prince is a faux pas in the highest degree. He was wearing sunglasses, which is good because I think that if I had made eye contact with him I would have gone completely blind. One thing that's surprising was that he is not tall. He was shorter than me even though he was wearing very tall heels. Everything you've ever heard about Prince is true. There was something different about that man. Some people have an aura. They have an energy that radiates around them which engulfs everything in the room. Unless you've been around somebody like Prince, you don't understand what I'm talking about. You just don't. Didn't work with him but I attended the Trailer Park Boys Swearnut movie premiere and sat 2 seats from Vern Troyer. When he came into the theater he had a few caretakers with him and we were told by the person who sat with him that we couldn't take pictures. I got the impression it was because of his physical state and that they didn't want any unflattering pics. He did have a pretty sweet electric rascal type chair though. I wouldn't have taken any pics anyway. Same night. Sebastian Bach. Total dong. Put my hand out to shake his and he just looked at me and made it to an exit with his Asian mistress. Tom Green. Thought I would have hated him but dude actually singled me out and started a down-to-earth conversation with me. For 30 minutes. Dude genuinely asks me if I'm having a good time and I felt like I was chilling with an old friend. Not a fan of his work but dang it if he wasn't a great human being. Later, Randy from TPB and the director for season 9 jump into the mix and by the end of the night, they dubbed my friend and I honorary Canadians. Julian from TPB has some type of social anxiety from what I saw. He was very guarded and interacting with the fans seemed to be downright painful for him. Not in the I don't want to talk to you way but the I'm not used to this type of attention way. Not me but my Homeland Security professor last year in college was a US Marshal and frequently volunteered to work security for concert events. We had a concert on campus for Waka Flocka Flame and most of campus went to his concert as it was only $10 for students and completely hosted by the school. Before the concert my professor shared with us his concerns because he didn't really like what the rapper stood for. This of course made me sad because I actually do enjoy trap rap and listen to that artist quite frequently. After the concert in class he began boasting about how amazing and kind of a person Waka Flocka Flame is and how he assisted the marshals assigned to his security the entire show and even helped unload all of the equipment. Which according to my professor was quite rare for an artist to do. Another artist my professor has done concerts for is Carrie Underwood, whom he has less than boastful stories about. Here's the difference. Waka Flocka came up through hard work, marketing himself the right way, and making an honest connection with his fans. Carrie Underwood was on a show about a singing contest and was given a team of producers, songwriters, and other handlers to turn her into a product to be consumed. Wacker is the artist he presents himself to be. Underwood is the human equivalent of a new car. I didn't work with celebrities, but Heather Locklear lived in my neighborhood in the early 90s. She herself wasn't bad. It was her and her group of friends. They were the cattiest group of frenemies I have ever seen. The worst possible thing you could do was leave the room, lest they all start talking about how fat you looked in those pants or how badly you need Accutane. The worst was my father. My father was not celebrity shy. We lived in an area where you could see a famous person shopping at the supermarket. He went to Heather Locklear in the middle of Gelson's one time. "Do I know you? You look so familiar." She laughs. "I mean, maybe we dated or something." She keeps laughing. "You sure? What's your name?" "Hannah." "Helen? It'll come to me." My father has no shame. Sounds like your dad is also the master of dad jokes. On a throwaway because it's privileged info, George W. Bush spent a lot of time with that guy while he was the president, and he was the nicest dude I ever met. Funny as heck too. For instance, he is a super avid bicyclist, both road and mountain, and he could ride the pants off guys half his age without a problem. Well, one of his daughters, I forget which one by now, had her sew along with her on a trip. Somewhere along the way cycling came up and the crap talking started. Ole George threw this kid down a cliff about how he can't ride worth a crap and he was going to ride circles around him. All in good fun but hilariously genuine. So the next day they go out riding and Bush pushes him hard. Guy manages to keep up until he totally wipes out on a downward section of trail and busts up his bike. Bush leapt off his bike and pulled the guy to his feet while asking him if he was okay and all that. Full of concern. Then, he motions his bike to one of the agents, picks up the guy's bike and carries it all the way up the hill to the road. A good 200-yard climb on a tough dirt trail. He would not let any agents take it from him. Another time he would walk over to where we were working, sit down and balls for an hour, asked us about our families, lives, dreams, etc. Just a super personable guy. During his tenure, any military member who worked in direct service to the president would get a picture in the Oval Office with him before we transferred to another assignment. We could also bring one family member, so I brought my father to the Oval Office to meet the president. And the fricking guy remembered something I said about my old man probably 6 months earlier. I think my old man about had a heart attack. Overall, he was just a super personable dude. Would always stop to bulls about random crap, held doors for people, picked up stuff that needed tidying. Everything you'd expect from a respectable southern guy, only, he was arguably the most powerful man on the planet. Didn't stop him from remembering birthdays, sending cards and just being a good person. Say what you want about his politics. I knew the man and he was awesome. This is sort of a combination of family, friends and people I've worked with or been at conferences with. Bob Weir is badly dyslexic and covers it with an amazing memory. Cole Weathers is a really nice guy when he is not around a bunch of other celebrities and is interested in cooking. Jane Goodall is very nice and quiet spoken, but she is a little spacey. That's probably because she is getting up in years and still travels a lot and is perpetually tired. Cole Weathers, interested in cooking. I wonder if he's got a stew going. I went to school with Wayne Rooney. He used to write on his exams, "I don't need this. I am going to be a footballer," but he was very reserved and never ever bragged about his talent. Well, in retrospect he is kinda right. Well, this might get buried, but I met Milo Ventimiglia last week and he was the loveliest person ever. Very, very sweet to me. He doesn't like the word selfie, haha. Bieber doesn't like hearing his voice on the PA. His tour rider at one point had a Segway request on it. The dog whisperer dude is polite. Don't really like him though. We're dead to him. Katy Perry is also very polite and kind. Her crew is treated well. Mike Portnoy is a talented dude but also cocky. Very particular about the drums he plays. Something about Pete Wentz is a little off. He was polite to me though. Coldplay and their entire crew are apparently very nice, professional and go out of their way to make fans happy. Jack Black is chill as frick. Lovely dude apparently. My friend had to ferry Tenacious D around to their media appointments while they were in the country. Treated her like a friend. All of Linkin Park at some point in 2011 hated each other and had separate dressing rooms. Didn't hang out with each other unless it was press or a show, haha. Rihanna broke a nail and refused to go on stage unless the gig promoters found a manicurist to fix it. My godfather hung out with Depeche Mode in 1993 and says that Dave Gahan was really drugged up and depressed. Have a ton of F1 stories too. I'm brain dead at the moment, but I'll try and think of more later. I've ghostwritten op-eds for a number of very famous actor activists. They might care a whole lot about the issues that they are spotlighting, but they usually know very little about the policies and specifics of those issues. One smashing movie star sent me notes back on a draft saying simply, "Can you make me sound smarter? Please Siri, give us names." I bowled with Lil Wayne over. He couldn't get his name in and I had no idea who he was. My friend said Lil Wayne, so I put in Little Wayne. He was nice. Short. I'm so happy you spelled out little. He must have been dying of laughter inside. One time when I was younger, around 7ish, I was in Hawaii with my family. It was raining, and it was me, my younger sister and dad, and we were wanting to hail a cab. A few feet in front of us, Mike Tyson was standing in front of a hailed cab with a security guard holding up his umbrella for him with two women, one on each arm. As Mike was talking to his security guy, my dad saw the window of opportunity to jack his cab. So, I don't know if Mike Tyson is in butthole or not, but my dad certainly was that day. Mike Tyson was arrested for a DUI outside of my grandparents' condo in Scottsdale while I was visiting them. This was Christmas '06, I believe. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.